G'day Bomber fans, it is draft month and it wouldn't be draft month without a cheeky Q&A. I asked you guys recently to leave some draft related questions in a post and you did that, so well done. Now it's my turn to answer them in this video today. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because I will be posting every day or two leading up to the draft. Apologies if I'm sounding annoying, hay fever, I bloody hate it, but let's get into this video. Alright, we have a few questions linked up to start. Pretty much we've got the main question of what picks will be used to match a bid on Isaac Kako. There is also sub-questions like Lachlan asking if we can go up the draft to get Kako and use our other picks. There's also Jezelenko asking who we target after Kako, but I will answer that in a bit because there are some questions kind of tied to that, so we'll save that. Let's start with moving up the order to get Kako. I assume you mean pick him with an open market pick. We're only going to get him from a matched bid. We're more likely to match a bid on Kako and then move up the draft order to try and select players around the same range, just because it's better value. Because that first round is really deep, I really doubt we do anything before a Kako bid, just because we need to know what picks we can and can't use to be trading. And on that, what picks will be used on a Kako bid? So to match a bid, you have to use whatever is next in your draft hand. So we have picks 28 and 31, but we have to use those on the Kako bid if it comes, and that is why we have them, because that range is the best value for matching picks. You'll see Brisbane have done the same, picks in that 20 to 30 range. If a club bids on Kako at 15, like Lachlan says, we will only need to use 28 and 31. To match a bid, you have to provide picks to the AFL of the same value as where the bid comes, and that is what 28 and 31 are. That's why we have those picks. To make it easier, there is also a 20% discount attached, so that makes it easier for us. It's unlikely that we have to use more than 28 and 31. If it's early, we'll probably need to fork out one or two of those picks in the 40s that we have, and that's just insurance. But I'd say it's only really going to be 28 and 31. And also keep in mind, those picks will also slide down the order a few places on draft night, but they still should be enough. And then it also gives us a chance to move up the order with all those later picks. We can bundle them together because clubs might want them. Teams like Melbourne, who only have 2 selections and want another one on draft night, there'll be buyers for them. But to answer the question, I'm going to say it's 28 and 31 used on the Kako bid. Alright, a couple of similar questions here. Who will Essendon draft this year besides Kako? Jayden Nguyen is tied to our academy, so we can match a bid on him later in the draft, but I'm going to talk about him more later because there is another question about him. I think after that we only take 2 or 3 other players max, and it's unfortunately hard to know what we're going to do because we're not really limited to our current draft picks like we were last year, and even last year we traded up the order a bit as well. We will attempt to trade back in and take players on the run, so despite us holding picks in the 40s after the Kako bid, we may end up taking someone in the teens or 20s, and that helps because we have that future first to use. I'd say key position players will be on the radar, seeing as we could be taking in a couple of vertically challenged players in Kako and Nguyen. I really like Jonty Fall, and Job Shanahan's really popular with you guys. I really wouldn't be surprised to see us trade up to get them, or later on we could wait and see what happens with Tom Sims. I'd be keeping an eye on James Barat as well. He's a big-bodied key defender. Harry O'Farrell as well as another one. Jack Au, this is a different one. He's a big-bodied midfielder around the pick 35 to 45 range. Essendon fan growing up as well. But yeah, it's really hard to know who we're going to pick because, or one, we don't know what draft picks we're going to have, and two, you only really properly find out about links to players closer to draft night. But I'd think at least one key position player, maybe 2. First solo question. John says, I know you haven't done mids yet in my draft profile series, that is, but he wonders if we should go after Luca Grego and what his draft range might be. So by the time this video is out, I may have spoken about Grego in my midfielder video. I've recorded these both already, and I haven't really decided which one I'm going to release first yet, so I may have, I may not have. But he's a late draft option around the range of our picks. I'd be very surprised if he's taken before pick 40, so we're going to definitely, well, I'd say we're probably going to have access to him with one of our selections. Personally, I think there are better options around, but I know there would be some out there that disagree with me, and that's the fun thing about the draft. I could just be wrong in my views, but I don't rate him as much as others. It doesn't mean he's not as good and not as good an option. He's fun to watch, and he's got a really good attitude on him. I just think we have a few midfielders like that already. I'd rather us go for either that big-bodied mid in Jack Au or Hugh Boxall, or maybe someone a bit cleaner with ball in hand, and that's kind of where you can draft a defender like Lockie Jakes or Angus Clark or Jackson Artemis, and you can develop them to potentially run through the midfield eventually. I'll never be mad with a draft pick because clubs know more than me, but I do think there'll be better options around our pick than Grego. Just my opinion though, not right or wrong. We're only going to find out about the right call in 5 years' time when players are players and not draft picks. General draft or trade question here. What is the best trade for 2025 out of Shea Bolton, Luke Parker, Bailey Smith, Jake Stringer, and Matt Kennedy? Stringer could be a great trade if he helps GWS move up the ladder, but right now I personally like the Bailey Smith trade the most. They essentially gave away a late first round pick for a young, high-profile midfielder. He's not just a good player, but the most popular in the AFL based on Instagram. So he helps on field, but he also helps off field with membership and stuff. He gets the women supporting the Cats. I don't know. And you look at other big deals. Hawthorn gave up a future first, second, and third for a nearly 30-year-old key defender in Tom Barrass, who I don't think's ever played a full year. The Cats gave up less for a guy with probably 10 years left in his footy lifespan. That's just a really good deal in a market that is so easy to exploit clubs in. Daniel Rioli went to Gold Coast for 2 first-round picks, one of which was pick 6. That is just nuts. So yeah, to me, Bailey Smith, the best of the trades for me. Gaming Tubby asks, what Essendon player will have the biggest glow-up from each position? This is fun and will definitely not make me look silly when I get it wrong. Defense, we gotta hope it's Zach Reid. I think if he stays fit, he clearly has the biggest glow-up, but is he gonna stay fit? Probably not. Lewis Hayes could play next year, so keep an eye on that. In the midfield, Elijah Sartas maybe. I mean, 3 years in, there really aren't many excuses, to be honest. He just has to be showing his worth. Same goes for Ben Hobbs. 4 years in, he should be playing and playing well. Up forward's a bit trickier. You know what? I'm going to go with Peter Wright. I know many have given up on him, but I think with a different shape up forward and a fully fit season with no interruptions, I think he provides over 30, 35 goals again, and that's good. I still think he has enough to be a good footballer. We saw that in 2022, and even 2023 when he returned, he was going at almost 2 goals a game. So I'm vibing a Peter Wright glow-up, hopefully. Alright, do I think we pick up Jayden Nguyen in the national or rookie draft or as a category B? It would be national or rookie. I mean, I don't see why we wouldn't. He isn't going to be a star or anything. I have him outside my top 50 rankings personally, so I'm not overly hyped to get him. But it's a freebie. It's a position we need. We may as well take a shot at a late bid if it comes. I think we'd go in with a plan to take him, so if someone bids, we match, and if not, we use a late pick on him anyway, like we did with Jaden Davey. That way we have a plan in store for the amount of list spots we fill both over the national and rookie draft. If I had to guess, I would say he's our last pick on draft night, but it's not even confirmed that we're picking him up yet. My guess is a yes, though. I think he's with us next year. Man Without Plans asks if there are any later round options that I think could turn into a Lachie Neale or James Hird level player. I mean, if there were, we wouldn't really know who they are, otherwise they'd be higher up the order. If I had to guess someone, maybe a slider like Archer Day Wicks, someone who was really hyped coming into the year and just hasn't done much. A bit of a smoky option for me would be Cade Herbert from South Australia. I don't think he'll be anything great, but I was thinking he was a top 20 or so player at the start of the year, so I don't know, he just kind of fell away. Those are the types of players that come good in an AFL system too, the ones that are hyped early and they have that poor draft campaign. But yeah, it's impossible to say. A lot of the time the best players in drafts come after the first round anyway, or they don't get drafted at all. Nick Martin overlooked in more than one draft. Who is Essendon's head of development and how long have they been at the club? Good question. I don't even know if we have one right now. It did used to be Cam Roberts, but he took on another role as an assistant coach, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know we got guys like Hurley and Cloak on the development team, but none are the head of development. I know Dale Tapping is the VFL coach now. Maybe he's working as head of development at the same time. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure with this one. I don't know if it's something that was announced that I missed, or maybe it hasn't been announced yet. If anyone knows, please let us know down in the comments, because I unfortunately don't really have an answer. Sorry, mate. Alrighty, a couple of similar questions that I'll answer together. One from Luca and one from Mr. President. I didn't know you were a footy man, Donald. So Luca asks if we should draft a mature aged player who has never played at the AFL, or maybe give an AFL player a second chance. And Trump asks if he asks about VFL players performing really well, and even gives a few examples as well, which is good. Dom Brew is the one that catches my eye there, Brew and Woodcock, but I'm inclined to lean towards drafting younger players a bit more. So as for VFL guys, Sam Davidson, 21-year-old Richmond VFL forward, that's kind of the age range I'd be looking at a little bit more, or even someone a tiny bit older like Riley Bice from Werribee. He's 25 next year, but he covers that general defensive role that we're lacking in right now. As for former AFL players, I'd probably stick to the rookie draft, as you said, Luca, or maybe even even SSP. Let guys train on with us over the preseason and give them a list spot if they impress over the preseason. But yeah, I don't mind the idea of taking mature aged options as long as they aren't too old, because we're in a spot where we want to be developing players and not seeking ready-made options like Geelong do. They can draft guys like Manor because they're in the premiership window, unlike us. Similar question from All Hail the Dons, but with a more specific names. Rookie draft options, delisted players, Tom Emmett, Noah Cumberland, and Jackson Pryor are named. And I'm going to expand on this a little bit actually, because I didn't mention this before, but the rookie draft this year is going to be a little bit smaller than other seasons, just because list spots are tight. Clubs are delisting players and committing to picking them back up in the rookie draft. We haven't done that yet, but others have, and with other clubs doing that, it means that there is less of a need to get guys like Pryor in through the rookie draft if we want them. So because this draft is so deep, we can almost use the rookie draft as another round in the national draft and take a guy or two that slid through it that deserves a chance. And then, as I said earlier, we can invite Pryor or Emmett, whoever we want to train with us over the preseason for an SSP spot. It really just depends on who is available though. If there is no one we want in the rookie draft, we may just decide to take a former AFL player, but I think it's more likely we use the rookie draft as a national draft extender. It's a very deep draft this year, so good players will miss out. Alright, longer question here, which I won't read out, but I do love it. Lord Harley Reid is the topic, and really it's all about how much it would cost to get Reid next year, and whether or not we are the best placed Victorian club to be able to bring him over. I mean, there are links to us. We also have heaps of cash as it is as well. We have a strong draft hand next year if it doesn't change. Could get stronger if Draper leaves as a free agent, as you said. The question is though, do we want to give away 3 first-round picks at minimum to get one player? That's unheard of, that amount of capital given away, and it's not even what it would cost. I honestly think West Coast would ask for more. Remember, he may be out of contract, but a trade would still have to be agreed upon. I just don't see how anyone gets a trade done for Reid, to be honest. It'd be great to have him, but you're throwing away so much at bringing him in. I think if we ever get him, it's through free agency. I'm sorry to poop on the party, but I just doubt clubs would really go for him. What would change things is if we finished last on the ladder and walked him to the draft. That would be funny, but there's no way we finish below Richmond. Even if we tried to tank, that just won't happen. Got a question about next year's draft and whether or not we should keep both our first round selections. Well, I want us to hold on to at least one. Ideally, we have a first rounder next year. I don't mind trading into this year's even later into the first round, but I wouldn't want to give up 2 first rounders next year to do it. Next year's draft looks pretty standard. It doesn't look as good as this year. Keep in mind though, this time last year we weren't nearly as hyped as we are now about the 2024 crop. That really developed over time. The same could happen next year. There are obviously some hyped players there, as there are every year, but yeah, it just seems like it'll be a pretty standard draft, all things considered. I wouldn't want to trade away both first round picks for it though. And finally, another question from Jezelenko, a regular on the channel. Cheers for your comments. I know if I ever post a Q&A, I can rely on you to give me some questions. This one's not draft related. Realistically, when do you envision Essendon to improve, win a final, make top 4, make a grand final under the club's new direction? Well, I learned my lesson the hard way not to expect anything. I remember back in 2017, or even I think 2016 I was getting hyped, but 2017, 2018 I was genuinely thinking a flag was on the horizon, and that in hindsight is pretty funny. I mean, you never know when clubs will win a flag. I reckon a good 5 or 6 of the last 15 premiers would have missed finals the year before winning it. I remember the Bulldogs were no good a couple of years before 2016. I think Melbourne were the same in 2020. Collingwood were bottom, I think they were second to last either 1 or 2 seasons before their flag, and Richmond, I remember, were no good before 2017. Teams can improve fast. They often win it out of nowhere. If we do win, that's probably what's going to happen. That's just part of how it goes sometimes. You can never really predict that, so bear that in mind. But I think if we were to succeed with our current plan under Scott and Rosa and Votso, I mean, I think there was a 7-year plan or 5-year plan 2 years ago, something like that. And the way that our list is building, you would think a good 3 or 4 surely. That is if we get it all right. It is more likely that we don't and we miss out. If every team starts from scratch, it's a 1 in 18 chance, but we're starting a little bit behind others, so I can't really see us winning anytime soon. But I do like the fact we're trying to get it right before Tasmania, because when they come into the competition, it will mess things up a bit, and hopefully by then our list is good and it's right, because that's kind of what happened with Hawthorn with that 3-peat. They got it right at the right time when 2 expansion clubs came in. So we're doing the right thing at the right time, but yeah, I can't really see us winning anytime soon. I'd love to be proven wrong though. Well, that is that. Just a quick little Q&A to pass the time. Cheers for watching. Cheers for leaving your questions down below. Leave some more down in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them down below. But that is all for now though. Like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and as always, go Bombers.